Hello, everybody. I apologise for the slight delay there in our start. We are live here for rounds number 3 and 4 of the British Porsche Cup Series from the wonderful Oulton Park circuit. We just have a few things going on in the background whilst we try to get loaded in. It was a bit of an error on my end, so we do apologise. But we are getting ready for the 3rd and 4th round of competition around season number 1 of the Porsche Cups. It is the spring 2026 season, and what a week it was last week as we went around Brands Hatch Indy. It was Thomas Brown who found a very dominant run around that circuit. He managed to take pole position and he turned that into 2 race victories with 2 fastest laps to boot as well, which means Thomas Brown currently leads our championship on the highest pecking order with full points to boot as well, as we are preparing for the next round of action here at the Oulton Park circuit. 2.69 miles around the layout. We're running the international circuit tonight, but we get rid of the Britain chicane, and aren't we lucky for that, because the Britain chicane can cause a lot of issues. Just a tap on the tyre will cause you to have damage on your car. Of course, we can still see that damage at the Hislop chicane, which we are still going to be running today. It's just that at the Hislop chicane, there's a little bit more room, especially to make mistakes. We've seen that in the past. Of course, this was the host of the inaugural round of the British Touring Car Series in the winter 25-26 season. It's been moved to rounds 4, 5, and 6 today. Of course, we do have the touring cars coming up straight after this, so make sure that you are hanging around, and if you haven't already done so, you hit that follow button here on the Twitch page as well to make sure you don't miss any of the Joseph Wright Broadcasting's broadcasts, as we've got lots coming up over the next few weeks and some new championships on the horizon as well, so make sure that you are hitting that follow button. Now then, before we get into the comms booth for the first time today, we're about a couple of minutes away from the qualifying session. Let's go through our championship order, because it is going to be, as we get our Porsches up, as we are going to have a look at the championship, it is going to be Thomas Brown who is at the very top of the championship order, and it looks like some of our customizations aren't working either. Look at this. Everything always goes wrong when we try to do our best. Now then, we are looking at Thomas Brown at the top of that championship order with the 2 wins, the 2 fastest laps, the pole position. It was an absolute dominant race. He led every single lap of the weekend as well, as he manages to hold on to a strong championship victory at the moment ahead of Riley Pogue, who sits in 2nd position. 3rd position goes way of James Lazick-Smith, and 4th position at the moment is Adam Baker with 12 points to his name, 12 points also to Hayden Ahmed, who sits in 5th position right now. So they are running quite close to each other, but at the moment they are not going to be able to separate themselves going into this one. How about coming out of it? That's going to be a different plan of action. Then you've got James Pacey Knight sitting in 6th position, the 2 Chaps Motorsports drivers there in 5th and 6th doing quite well. Matt Neal is the driver in 7th ahead of Pete Paver. Lucas Chatterton is in 9th position, and Gregory Speakman rounds out your top 10. All the drivers have put points on the board out of last week. Like I said, it is going to be a very interesting event here today, that's for sure. And for the first time today, let's go across into the commentary booth here and welcome and good evening. We go prepare to go racing here around the Oulton Park circuit. And we aren't just live on Twitch today. No, if you want to watch the behind the scenes and the broadcast booth throughout the entire of tonight's event, then head across to our YouTube page, youtube.com/@JosephWright TV, where it is just the commentary booth that you can see over there. No overlays, no fills, no excellent editing. It's just a camera, which you can see on the corner of the screen there. So make sure you head over to the YouTube if you want to see that. For all the racing action, make sure you're staying here, though, because we've got the Porsches just about to go out onto the track for qualifying here. Is it going to be another pole position from Thomas Brown? Well, it's looking likely, because he is the fastest in the session session during practice by about 0.4 of a second. And he has put in a number of laps. He is looking strong once more. Can the Alpha Corsa team continue to dominate around the Porsche Cup here again with their driver Thomas Brown? Of course, you have Matt Neal in there as well. You've got Adam Neal racing for the first time this season in the Porsche Cups as well, so it's nice to see Adam Neal, 3 Alpha Corsas heading down onto the track for this one. We've got new drivers setting in again as well. We've got Ollie Ricks out there for the first time in the 95 machine heading around on the track. We've got James Potter in the number 5 machine as well. And then, as I said, Eduardo Zamora, we were talking about him during the behind the scenes. He sets in as well. So then, let's get down onto the track. We have got qualifying coming up, and as we look at that, James Isaac Smith has actually got a black flag on his way out, so he'll need to reset his car and try this again. 10 minutes of qualifying here. The question on my mind is it going to be the same as last week, where we see a closed qualifying session? It certainly looks that way for our drivers, that they are out there on their lonesome today. So let's head across down onto the track here as we watch Hayden Ahmed going around the laps, trying to get his tyres warmed up in this session to see what he is able to do during the qualifying and see if he's able to continue to have some strong results. More cars down there than we had last week. 10 drivers took to the field in rounds number 1 and 2. Well, I can't tell you exactly how many at the moment until they've all put their times in. Unless I was to sit here and count, it's looking at about 12 or 13 cars out there this week. So we are seeing an increase in our Porsche Cup cars. If you want to get involved as well, you certainly can. The British Club series that we've got going on, you can check them out over on the SimGrid pages. You can get onto the Discord as well and get yourself signed up for not just the Porsches, but the touring cars that are going to be coming out in an hour's time as well. We've got 2 races coming up in the Porsches. 3 races will then be coming your way in the touring cars as we watch Hayden Ahmed here starting the lap in the background as we head around through down the bottom of Lakeside and into Island Bend. This is a corner that you can put just a little bit too much speed in, and it does unsettle you going into Shell Oil's corner, that hairpin of turn number 5. Now, we are not running the chicane here of Britain's, which means we can keep the throttle all the way down as we run up the hill of Hilltop, and then we head back down again. Hilltop there, the highest point on the circuit, into the Hislop chicane, and then out of Knickerbrook, turn number 9 on this layout. Of course, the name of Knickerbrook came from an old wives' tale around that corner. If we get some time, we'll have to talk about that one before the end of the event as we come up towards the end of the lap here. It runs through Druids Corner of turn number 12, and we push it hard all the way to the final corner here, and already down to just 5 minutes on the board. Thomas Brown has put in a lap time good enough right now for provisional pole position as we see our order on the left-hand side. Riley Pogue obviously was running very quickly last week as well. He sits in second position, about a 10th ahead of Hayden Ahmed at the moment. Ollie Rooks puts in his first lap time of the season. It's good enough for 4th position. James Paisley in 5th. This is Pete Paver. He comes around onto a new lap, invalidating his last lap. Very easy to do around this circuit, I found it. There are some points in which you can extend the track just a little bit, but there are other points in which extending will really harm you around this track as we watch Pete Paver come through the Shell Oil's corner here and up towards turn number 6, what would have been the Britain chicane, but he continues to fly along. Matt Neal here coming up towards the end of his lap, and we will ride on board with Matt Neal for the next lap around the circuit to see what this track is like as we come up towards the timing line. Matt Neal crosses the timing line. Will it be a time on the board on that lap? It will. It's good enough for second. Half a second off of Thomas Brown, who goes even faster ahead. And Matt Neal backs out on this lap time. You can hear him there deciding he's just going to cool his tyres down just a little bit here, as we can see the support for Alpha Corsa in the Twitch chat over there. We do have two of the Alpha Corsa drivers at the very front of the field. Adam Neal, as we cut to Adam Neal, has a massive wreck at turn number 1. No valid lap time on the board, and he won't get a lap time on the board. What a massive accident that was. Down into turn number 1 here as we head up towards the Shell Oils corner. We watch James Paisley Knight here as James Potter found himself on to the front row of the grid. Potter out there for the first time this season and running around in second place right now. But what is he going to be able to do? That's going to be the question. It's the newbie this week. Of course, he's chasing down the man leading the championship, the man who has taken pole position, both race wins, both fastest laps on offer, and it looks like he's about to take yet another pole position here as Thomas Brown comes around the final corner up towards the timing line. We got just under 2 minutes left on the board here, which means Brown could get another full lap in on this time as we come through in towards turn number 1. Pushing it as hard as possible, but that is going to be an off track for Brown, and he will not find an improvement on this lap. How about Matt Neal? He also pushes it off track at turn number 1. James Lazarus Smith is out there. Lazarus Smith was having a decent run in the touring cars last week. How's he going to do out here in the Porsches as he heads up towards the Druids corner? Of course, we've got the water tower. Is that turn 11 before we get across to the right? And if you set up that turn 11 incorrectly, it can really unsettle you through Druids. Up into Lodge here. I'm sure we will see some racing. Of course, if you remember back to last season, this was the track that my very famous saying came out of, which we remember from the touring cars, where I was standing on my chair following a last lap fight through that final corner, and it was an amazing fight indeed. Lazarus Smith ran off the circuit there at turn number 1, and it looks like for the most part we are going to see lap times no longer counting. We will see what we are going to be able to do with our qualifying order. 13 cars in this session. Gregory Speakman, Adam Neal, both without valid lap times to their name. They'll find themselves in 12th and 13th. Of course, in this series, the top 10 score points, which means we are going to see some drivers without points here today. And with these championships, the points are going to mean everything, and especially when you're trying to chase down our championship leader, Thomas Brown. Right, qualifying comes to a close here, and we prepare to go racing for the first race of the day. We have 2 races coming up around Oulton Park in the Porsches here, both of them being 15 minutes long, limited by time, not by laps today. Let's get our grid then for race number 1. It is going to be pole position once more for Thomas Brown at the front of the field. It is going to be James Potter in second ahead of Matt Neal. James Lazarus Smith will start this one in 4th, and Riley Pogue will start in 5th position. 6th position goes the way of Hayden Ahmed. 7th is for James Paisley Knight, and Ollie Ricks starts in 8th. Eduardo Zamora will start this one in 9th position ahead of Lucas Chatterton. Pete Paver will start in 11th ahead of Gregory Speakman. And at the back of the field, it will be the final Alpha Corsa of Adam Neal. As we seem to not have any cars showing. We are a rolling start. I forget that. That's why we are at the back end of the track. I forget we go rolling starts in these Porsches. I was looking at the grid like, where is everyone? But it was because we are going to be going for these rolling starts, of course, in the Porsches, which does make it a bit easier to head down into turn number 1. However, they are going to be at a lot faster pace as well. Let's see how we get going on this one. Drivers will prepare to do the formation lap. We will be setting off along Clay Hill. We're just after Clay Hill here. and up towards Druid's corner. Of course, Thomas Brown will be the man who leads us away from the very front of this field. It will be James Potter who will be just alongside him in his first event in the series, but Thomas Brown has managed to place it on pole position now yet again. Can he led all of the races last week as well. Can he lead all of the races again today, take all of the race laps in the lead? Let's find out how he goes around here. He has a good opportunity, and he is looking quick around this circuit as well, but James Potter will be looking to try and do something from second position. Matt Neal will be looking to try and do something from third. Neal says that he's not expecting to see Brown at the top of a championship today. Whether that's in the Porsches or the touring cars, we'll have to let to see, because of course Thomas Brown is also leading the touring car championship, only by a singular point over there, however, but he is leading both of the championships so far as we head around the final corners here, and they disappear into the forest as we go on towards the final corner, and it is Warwick Bridge that we go underneath here, and you see the field of drivers coming along behind the Porsche safety car. The Alpha Corsas on the right-hand side of the track there as we come up towards the final turn. Thomas Brown will take over the lead of the race once that Porsche safety car comes off the track as we head out of the final turn here. It is side by side at the front of the field all the way back as we get ready to go racing. It is going to be Thomas Brown in charge of the green, and away we go up towards turn number one. It remains side by side with Thomas Brown to the inside there. Matt Neal trying to hold it on the inside as well. James Potter carries the speed on the outside line there. Down towards Denton's and up towards Cascades where we switch to the left here. A little bit of a late braking from Chatterton in the background there as Lazarus Smith under attack from Riley Pogue. Pogue looks to the left-hand side, tucks back behind again, looks back up the inside here. Can Pogue make that position stick? At the moment, no, he cannot. He will have to wait behind, but it is a dive up the inside behind. And James Paisley Knight loses position going through the hairpin there as we come up towards the timing line, and he drops behind Eduardo Zamora in that fight as we come up towards the braking zone. It is side by side between Lazarus Smith and Neal. Neal goes onto the grass there, and Riley Pogue finds his way past around the outside, kicking over the curbing there, floating into the air as we head on through turn number 11 and into Druids now. Matt Neal will get the inside to Pogue as they remain side by side on the opening lap of asking here. Up towards the final turn, it is Hayden Ahmed just behind, looking to see where he can go. Neal to the inside of Pogue here. Pogue is not going to be able to hold the speed on the outside, and Matt Neal will hold on to fourth position. Hayden Ahmed just behind here is going to go to the outside of Riley Pogue as Pogue goes defensive up through turn number one, and Hayden Ahmed just is going to keep it ahead there of Ollie Ricks. Ricks chasing in behind here as we are going to get our timing tower up, and that is Pogue off the circuit down the exit of Cascades, turn number 3. He moves to the left hand side of the circuit as that was Hayden Ahmed moving to the left side of the circuit as he gets past Riley Pogue, who was slow coming through the exit of 3. Pogue, though, however, gets back to the inside. That was Ricks looking to try and get to the inside there of Hayden Ahmed as well. Has to remain behind as they come out of the Shell Oils corner and a long hilltop now. Zooming past that Puddin chicane, they don't have to worry about it. Up towards the braking zone now. Hayden Ahmed is still all over the rear of Pogue as that's contact behind. James Paisley Knight tried to get to the outside of Zamora. A little bit of a tap there means that Paisley Knight has to give up just a little bit of time. That was Ollie Ricks going over the grass just a little bit there. Up over the hill now, across Clay Hill and in towards turn number 11 and towards Druids again. The right-handed turn here, very easy to push yourself wide, lose the rear end, but all cars looking very smooth at the moment as we head up towards the final turn around the course then. A nice smooth run for the drivers in the midfield. They start to settle themselves down, and the man at the front trying to take the fast lap as well is currently got a 1.1 second gap over James Potter, but James Lazarus-Smith is looking to try and take that bonus point out of this one as he heads through Cascades, and he took the fastest lap last time around. A fight going on at the background here. Lucas Chatterton looks to the inside of Adam Neal as they fight out for 12th and 13th. No points on the board here, but there is a nice little fight going on out of the top 10 at the moment, but it's a slide there for Lucas Chatterton. Just catches the grass. He gets it to a stop and will have to recover on that one. It looks like they've had some earlier issues in the race as well. This was at the end of lap number 1. Chatterton spins it, just taps the barrier, and that was Adam Neal coming in to join him just behind. They both found their way to that barrier, and then this was what we just saw, a clip on the grass, and Chatterton going around. Meatballs in the midfield. Ollie Ricks and Hayden Ahmed have just got meatball flags whilst we were watching those replays. It looks like both of them have hit the tyre barrier. That's the hit on the tyre barrier. Yes, they've both hit the tyre barrier. Hayden Ahmed, broken left front suspension for Ollie Ricks. It is also a broken suspension. Both drivers will fall out of the points here. And this fight that was going on between Adam Neal and Lucas Chatterton, it does mean something now, because Adam Neal, if he can find enough pace to get past Ollie Ricks, who's about to drop down and get himself back out there. Here comes Ricks, but here comes Adam Neal. Adam Neal will now move into points-paying positions. Talking about those points-paying positions, this is the fight going on for second in this race right now. James Potter leading James Lazarus-Smith. Lazarus-Smith moves to the left-hand side, up towards the braking zone for turn number 7, into the Hislop chicane. Lazarus-Smith tries the outside line. It's going to be side-by-side here. And to the inside, Potter will stick as they continue to run side-by-side out of Knickerbrook. I don't know how they've managed to stay as side-by-side as long as they have out of Hilltop all the way through. We're still side-by-side into Druids. Lazarus-Smith on the outside now. He's going to have to give up that position. James Potter already going defensive here as we come up towards Lodge Corner. Lazarus-Smith trying that wider line, looking for the speed on the exit, and again straight to the inside there from James Potter as he tries to hold on to second position. This fight, though, is inviting Matt Neal back into it, because Neal started this race in third position. Lazarus-Smith looks to the inside there. It's a very tight line. Speed for Potter, though. We saw in the background there was a spin when we were watching that fight. It was Ollie Ricks who found himself going around on the exit of Cascades last lap. Keeps it out of the tyre wall, though, so no damage to his car, and will keep on going. Matt Neal is very much back into this fight then, with Thomas Brown out in the front of this race. 3.5 seconds clear with the fastest lap. Here goes Lazarus-Smith. Once again, it's to the outside here as he tries to go later on the brakes. He gets the overlap, switches across, and this time Matt Neal tries to get himself involved. He can't, but James Lazarus-Smith finds himself past James Potter. Potter down to third position now, and Matt Neal is going to fight it out to try and get onto the podium. He looks to the inside. He's not going to be able to keep it on the inside for long, though. Will stay behind in fourth, and that's Riley Pogue. Just 0.6 of a second behind, looking to try and catch this fight for second position. Eduardo Zamora chasing down James Pacey Knight. They're looking at going for a fight in 6th and 7th position right now, but as it stands, there is just a couple of tenths of a second between them. This is the chasing pack behind James Lazarus-Smith. It's James Potter in third, Matt Neal in fourth, and Riley Pogue sitting in 5th position. At the moment we come down the bottom of Cascades, the drivers go over the grass there, all of them picking up and off track as they come through that. Of course, there are instant limits in these events. Drivers will be needing to think about that. Very short races, of course, just 11 laps of asking around the Oulton Park circuit. It's very quick without the Hislop chicane, the Britain chicane in it. We just go flying down towards Hislop. This fight for 2nd position continues with 6.5 minutes left on the board. It is going to be James Isaac Smith continuing to keep James Potter at bay for now. But Potter was the driver ahead just a couple of laps ago, and he's all over the rear view mirror of James Isaac Smith. And that's all that Isaac Smith is going to be able to see in his rearview mirror at the moment, and it's not much to look at ahead as Neil runs wide, because Thomas Brown is 4.5 seconds clear. To the inside goes Isaac Smith. Potter trying to get the speed on the outside line there. They both push it hard as they come out of the final corner, come up to Deer Leap, and now towards turn number 1. Potter just trying to figure out which way to go there. Isaac Smith holding on ahead at the moment as we come up towards turn number 3 of Cascades. We've seen issues for other drivers, not for these ones though. Will they all keep it within track limits this time around? Isaac Smith, Neil and Pogue all getting off tracks through that corner there. As it looks like James Potter was the only one of the drivers who was able to keep it on the track at that point. As Riley Pogue actually went around. We completely missed that one when we were looking. Riley Pogue went around at Cascades. He does hold on to 5th position, but he is now just ahead of James Pace Knight and Eduardo Zamora. But Pogue at the moment will take 5th position still in this one. Back to this podium fight. It was the driver at the rear of the field, of course, that dropped behind. So it doesn't affect these 3 drivers. It just means that Neil will not have that pressure behind him now. Zamora looks to try and get past Pacey Knight for 6th position. It's to the inside of turn number 11. It's around the outside of Druids there, getting the curbing from Pacey Knight. But Eduardo Zamora gets the speed on the exit of on the outside of Druids. Pacey Knight look to try and get up the inside of Lodge's corner. Can't do it. Into Deer Leap. It is Zamora ahead of Pacey Knight across the timing line. 4 minutes left on the board at the moment. James Isaac Smith has stolen the fastest lap away from Thomas Brown at the moment. Will he be just the 2nd driver this season to get a fastest lap? And will it take away Brown's dominant run, who continues to have led every single lap this season? Fights at the back for 11th position. Adam Neal and Ollie Ricks, as Neal runs slightly wide there. Ricks is going to try and get that move around the outside, and he gets the overtake done. Ricks 2 seconds off of a points-paying position from Lucas Chadderton ahead. Let's see for the first time today if our live championship standings are going to work for us. They are! They are going to work for us here in race number 1. We can see how the championship right now is going to be affected by the race results. And James Isaac Smith will be finding himself in 2nd position in the championship with this result. If he drops down to 3rd, however, Riley Pogue will maintain 2nd in the championship. Thomas Brown continues to pull away at the front of this championship if he was to continue to lead this one to the end, and he is showing no signs of slowing down right now. As we come through Cascades here, James Potter has dropped off of Isaac Smith just a little bit. There's about half a second between them then. There's about 2.5 laps left to go in this race, with James Potter chasing down James Isaac Smith. They're in 2nd and 3rd position. Thomas Brown leading the way. 4.7 seconds between them. That gap is not closing, so Thomas Brown should have a dominant race victory once again. Back behind then, we are looking at the drivers at the very back of the points-paying positions. Lucas Chatterton, he was inherited that 10th place, the final points on the board. But Ollie Ricks right now, who has had to come down pit lane to fix car damage, is looking to try and regain the points position here. He's about half a second back off of Lucas Chatterton right now as we come up towards the left-hand turn of Island Bend here. Really fast. Get on the brakes, try to lock it up. And these cars are a lot easier than the old Porsches, of course. Rick's always looking for the speed on the exit. Bit slower on the entrance, faster on the exit. You can see that now because he is all over the rear end of Chatterton. Chatterton goes to the inside. Is he going to try and get a defensive line? He certainly is. Ricks is not going to try and make that move into the corner here. Once again, looking for his run out of the Hislop chicane into Knickerbook here. 0.3 of a second separate them as we head up over Clay Hill, through Water Tower and up into Druids now. Different racing lines once more with Ollie Ricks all over the rear of Lucas Chatterton. Chatterton getting a lot of curbing there, bumping that car around. It does slow you down just a little bit getting that amount of curbing, but Ricks has to stay behind as we come around the final turn here and in through Deer Leap up towards turn number 1 once more. 37 seconds left on the board, and where Thomas Brown is at the moment, I think we're going to see the checkered flag out this time. We return to the fight between Chatterton and Ricks. It's only half a second between Zamora and Paisley Knights at the moment as we come through turn number 3 of Cascades. Both drivers pushing hard in this one. Thomas Brown, though, is he going to take the checkered or the white flag with 10 seconds on the board here? Up towards the timing line. Are we going to see a white flag or a checkered flag as Thomas Brown crosses the line? We go on to the white flag lap here. Thomas Brown takes one additional lap in this one as we enter lap 11. That gives Ricks just a little bit of breathing space here to try and make this move back past, well, getting this move past Chatterton and back into a top 10. Hayden Ahmed is back out on track again, of course. Ahmed having to go down pit lane himself for damage as well, as that was a lot of curbing there from Chatterton. He holds it tight through Clay Hill, and it puts him in perfect position to defend through Druid's Corner now. Up towards Lodge Corner. Great overtaking opportunity. And once again, it is going to be heavy onto the brakes on the inside from Chatterton. Ollie Ricks trying to hold the outside line. He's got the speed. They're side by side up towards the timing line. They cross the line. It is Ollie Ricks ahead of Lucas Chatterton. They come through turn number 1, and Lucas Chatterton leads, Ricks leads Chatterton. Chatterton onto the grass there. Through the exit of turn number 1. Is Paisley Knight going to be having an opportunity here to get past Eduardo Zamora? He got close into the Hislop chicane. Out of Knickerbook now. Chasing down, but it is going to be Thomas Brown taking victory here in round number 3. 3 for 3 from Thomas Brown. Lazark Smith gets second position. And James Potter rounds out your podium. Paisley Knight looks to the inside of Zamora as we go into Lodge Corner. A wide entrance from Zamora. Is it going to be a drag race to the line? Out of Deer Leap. Zamora has the overlap here. It's closing. But it closes to a 1/10 of a second. But Eduardo Zamora will take 6th position. And at the back of the field, Chatterton just not enough to put himself into the points there. So as our drivers finish this race, Thomas Brown took home race victory ahead of James Lazark Smith. James Potter coming home in 3rd with Matt Neal in 4th. Riley Pogue taking 5th position ahead of Eduardo Zamora. James Paisley Knight come across the line in 7th. Pete Paver in 8th ahead of Gregory Speakman. Ollie Ricks came across the line in 10th position ahead of Lucas Chatterton. Hayden Ahmed down a lap will finish this one in 13th. Adam Neal here will come across the line in 12th position as he comes out the final turn. Race number 2 is about to come your way with race number 1 done and dusted here. As the drivers cross the line, that will be it for race number 1 of the day. Race number 2 is about to begin here in the British Porsche Cup Series for the spring 2026 season. Of course, the grid set by the results from race number 1, but if you do need a reminder of that grid, well, here you go. Thomas Brown is going to start the second race from pole position after taking the win in race number 1. He is going to be ahead of James Lazick-Smith, who will start this one in second position. James Potter will be in third, ahead of Matt Neal. Riley Pogue will start this one in fifth position. Sixth position is going to go the way of Eduardo Zamora. That was the wrong button, and I accidentally hit all of the grid for you. Seventh position will be James Paisley Knight. Pete Paver is going to start this one in eighth position, and Gregory Speakman will start in ninth. Ollie Ricks will start this one from 10th position on the grid. 11th position will be for Lucas Chatterton. Adam Neal will start in 12th position, and at the back of the field after getting damage in race number 1 and finishing a lap down, Hayden Ahmed will start in 13th position for this one. As drivers prepare to get themselves started and around this track, we are going to have a little look at them on the back of the grid here as we prepare to go racing. And just for a moment, we'll welcome you to the commentary box once again, and thank you to all out there that are watching this event. I hope you are enjoying it. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that follow button to be notified when we go live here on the Joseph Wright Broadcasting page here on Twitch. And for a special one-off here today, if you head across to our YouTube page, youtube.com/@JosephWrightTV, you will also find that we're live over there, but not broadcasting our event like you can see here. We are just having the comms box over there, so you can just see the commentary box for the whole of the event. So if you want to see the behind the scenes, go check out that, because between our races, between the Porsches and the touring cars, when we take a break over here on the Twitch, we will still be live over on the YouTube. And at the end of the event as well, we'll be live for another 5 or 10 minutes or so over on the YouTube. So make sure you head over there. Hit the subscribe button over there as well, because we post all of our race replays as well as the race highlights to all of the events. And more frequently now, we are getting up to date with posting more frequent shorts, so you can catch all of the best moments from all of the events that we broadcast. Right then, drivers are getting ready to go racing again, so we will step back from the commentary booth and on to the racing track here as we get ready for race number 2. And for a second time of asking, Thomas Brown will be starting the Oulton Park race at the front of the field. For the first time, though, it is going to be James Lazick-Smith in second. Now, interestingly, Gregory Speakman and Hayden Ahmed are on wet tyres. Now, we've seen this alternate strategy in previous events, notably the Donington Park event. We noticed at Donington Park in the touring cars, they were on split strategy. The wet tyres ended up winning. Will it happen here today? Are we expecting to see some rain as the race goes on? We are green, though, here at round number 4, around Oulton Park. Thomas Brown gets an absolutely blasting launch towards turn number 1. It is side by side between James Potter and Matt Neal in third and fourth position. There's a little bit of a nudge there. They wobble way down. More contact ahead of them as Lazick-Smith stays ahead of Potter. Potter tucks to the inside line there. A little bit of a wobble. And James Potter is going to find himself hard into the wall. A huge wreck at the back of this field. More cars collected. Lucas Chatterton off. That is about 4, 5 cars. More cars around. That's Adam Neal spinning. As that's going to be Ollie Rick straight on at the hairpin. He had damage going into that corner. And 2 tyres. Hayden Ahmed and Gregory Speakman, both of them are on wets here. They are going to be 4th and 5th position. Only your top 3 drivers in this race have exited the first lap of this race without any issues on those dry tyres. Pete Paver is continuing around though. There are going to be 5 cars down pit lane with meatball flags on the opening lap of the race here. As we come up towards the end of this lap, it is Pete Paver chasing down Hayden Ahmed. Again, Ahmed, Speakman, they are both going to be on the wet compound of tyres. They're expecting rain later on in this one, but we are going to see a number of cars down pit lane. But for the most part then, they have settled themselves down. Let's go back and watch this one. Oh my word, it was just carnage. Potter went to the inside, touched Lazik Smith. Pogue was then pushing Neil, got caught on, and just look at that. And as the crash continued, more cars, and it just went all the way down the straight there. And look at that huge hit at the end as well. Big, big issues. Eduardo Zamora has swapped to wets, but does have a penalty for an unsafe pit entrance there. So he has swapped across to wets here in his pit stop. So it looks like there has been a consensus that the rain is coming. I'm looking at the weather here. There's no rain in the air at the moment. Of course, we've got 12 more minutes. Will we see that rain? We've seen this situation before, as I've said. Back at Donington last season in the touring cars, it started off dry, but the rain came down heavily. And we actually saw Jan Mild go on to win that race last season, starting on the wet compounder tyres, because that's how much the wet tyres came into play. Matt Neal on a recovery here, 5th position. Thomas Brown, though, just being at the front of the field, staying out of the way of all of the issues behind. Thomas Brown is just loving life in the Porsches as he's looking to take 4 out of this one. As James Potter comes out, you saw it, I saw it too. That was rain. Rain just for a moment, but there was rain falling there. And this is where it's going to get interesting for drivers such as Hayden Ahmed, who is leading on the wet compounder tyres. Already spray out there, just a little bit, but this could see our first different winner here today. And with that being said, I think it's only fair we get our tyre compounds on the left-hand side for you, so you can see what tyres each of our drivers are running out here. Matt Neal out of the race. Issues for Matt Neal. And it's a big hit with the wall. This was on his recovery. What's happened here to Neal? It's contact with Zamora. And a big hit into the wall for Matt Neal out of this evening's events in the Porsches. Of course, we've still got the touring cars coming up, and a number of these names that you can see here in the Porsches, they are going to be coming up again in the touring cars. As some drivers take part in just one, some drivers take part in both of the events. The rain stopping and starting here. We watch Hayden Ahmed leading ahead of Gregory Speakman. That was a back marker going past there of James Potter. So right now, the dry tyre is still the faster tyre out there. But we do still have about 7 more laps of asking here. The rain comes and goes. You can see still that spray coming up from behind here. Just on parts of the circuit as the water is already beginning to settle for our drivers. We head around, looking to see if there is anything more that these wet tyres can do at this early stage. Lucas Chatterton is out onto the track after repairing his car. He is also on the wet compounder tyres. Eduardo Zamora swapped over. Of course, we saw Potter, Ricks and Pogue all come down pit lane. And they all put on the... they all kept on the dry tyres. Adam Neal has come down... Matt Neal is out of the race. Adam Neal, has he come down pit lane? I think Adam Neal's come down pit lane as well. I'm looking at it here. No, I don't think Adam Neal has found his way down pit lane in this one. I think we are looking right now as he goes deep there. These wet conditions might already be causing issues for our drivers as we have a look there at who has come down pit lane. Pogue, Rix, Potter, Zamora and Chatterton have all come down pit lane in this one. And at the moment, Adam Neal is holding on ahead of Riley Pogue as we head up towards the final couple of turns. And that's Pogue to the inside of Adam Neal. And Riley Pogue moves up into 7th position. Hayden Ahmed gets past Pete Paver. Are these wet tyres about to come into play here? With the wet running coming out, it means Thomas Brown is going to take the fastest lap. I missed who took the fastest lap in race number 1, whether it was Brown or whether Lazik Smith managed to hold it. But are these wet tyres about to come into play here? I'm going to be looking at last lap times. At the moment, the dries, well, last lap the dries were 6 seconds faster than the wet. But as you can see, it is getting a lot of spray out there. The rain isn't ultra heavy, but you can see more drivers on the wet tyres in this second half of the race than who started on the wets, as Chatterton moves up into 12th with Matt Neal being out of this race early doors. Surprisingly, Matt Neal, the only driver out of this race. You've got to think how many cars as Hayden Ahmed cuts the chicane there. You've got to think about how many cars were involved in that opening lap incident. Matt Neal is the only driver to have abandoned this race, and that was due to a second incident for him. Speakman loses behind Pogue here. Those dry tyres are still the fastest out there, as that's Thomas Brown and James Lazik Smith have pitted for wets. Thomas Brown has pitted for wet. James Paisley Knight is staying out on dries. But Brown and Lazik Smith have pitted for wets, which means Hayden Ahmed is going to come through to take what is going to be the unofficial lead of the race. There is Thomas Brown. Gregory Speakman will come out behind Brown, but in what will be a podium position because Lazik Smith comes out, which means Adam Neal, Riley Pogue and Pacey Knight are the only drivers still out there on dries. Pogue trying on dries. He is fighting with Speakman here, showing that at the moment the dries aren't completely out of their depth. Paisley Knight will need to hold on for another 5 laps or so on these dry tyres, and already that time is coming down as he goes through the Hislop chicane. James Paisley Knight at the front of this field, still on the dry tyres. We have got 4 more laps after this one. Maybe 3 actually, with how slow these lap times are going to get now. Does Paisley Knight think he can hold on to this 18-second advantage over Hayden Ahmed? Again, we've seen conditions like this at Donington. Paisley Knight is risking it. Paisley Knight is going to risk it for the biscuit. He wants to win here. It's going to be challenging in these conditions. That time on the left-hand side, you can see it's down from 20 seconds from last lap to 17 seconds at the same point this lap. And the circuit is just going to be getting worse and worse out there. Paisley Knight out in the lead right now. Thomas Brown looking to try and get past Hayden Ahmed for what will be second in this race. Riley Pogue is still doing a great job out there on the dries. He has pulled a gap over Gregory Speakman. But Pogue is also going to be finding these dry tyres very, very tricky in these conditions. That lead gap now down to 13 seconds. About 14 actually as we go through the corners. Looking at our lap count. Looking at the time a lap is going to take. I'm thinking 3 more laps after this one. Chatterton has gone off though. This is how Chatterton's gone off. It's around the final corner. Lost the rear end. Very similar to how he went around in race number 1, in fact. Lazarus Smith now gets past Pogue as well as Lazarus Smith on the wets. Pogue on the dries. Pogue is having issues on those dry tyres. This is what happened to him as he ran out of the hairpin. It was a little bit of a slide on the rear end. He kept it together, but he's onto the grass. In that, James Paisley Knight from the race lead. He risked it. It's not going to play out. James Paisley Knight goes around, and now it's a fight for the lead. Thomas Brown goes up the inside of Hayden Ahmed, and after needing to make a pit stop in this race for wet tyres, Thomas Brown is still looking to take the race victory here. James Paisley Knight, he's gone around on those dries, but he knows the amount of time he'll lose on the pit stop now. He will never recover. 2 more laps of asking, including this one. There is James Paisley Knight being chased by none other than Thomas Brown and his own teammate. That was Eduardo Zamora, P9, getting out of the way. Ahmed, a slightly wider line there. Brown, though, all over the rear of the man on the dries, and Paisley Knight has no answer to the wet tyres. James Paisley Knight risked it. He wanted to stay on the dry tyres without the slide. You'd argue there was a possibility. But Thomas Brown, who has won all 3 races so far this season, is looking to take victory number 4 of 4. And I'm trying to figure out if he took the fastest lap in race number 1 or not. We will have to work out by the points result. Of course, 16 points is the maximum points you can take out of a single race. As Speakman getting overtaken by Lazarus Smith there for 4th position. Let's have a little look at our live championship standings. Thomas Brown did not take the fastest lap in race number 1 here today. I think that might have gone the way of James Lazarus Smith, but you can see how the championship is going for Thomas Brown. Of course, there are going to be 2 drop weeks involved in this 11-week championship. It's the entire worst result as Paisley Knight sees damage on his car here. And he goes around in exactly the same fashion as he did on the previous lap, but this time he finds himself into the tyre wall. I was going to say, there are 2 drop weeks that are going to be applied across the course of the whole season, which would drop your entire weekend. Which means, at the moment, Thomas Brown will be dropping all of these points. He'll be dropping race wins, which will put him right into the clutches of those behind. Of course, will we see him continue to take race victories? We'll have to wait and see. But those drop points are going to be crucial later on in the season as well. In fact, we will start to count the drop weeks next week. So next week, we will start to look at the championships with those 2 drop weeks applied. We will only see the best result out of next week. But Thomas Brown here, is he going to take the checkered this lap, or are we going to go for 1 additional lap here? 10 seconds on the board. Thomas Brown pushed it to 11 laps in race number 1. He won't be able to do it in these conditions, though. But Thomas Brown, for the 4th time in 4 races, is going to cross the line as your race victor. But he did not lead every lap of the season anymore. Hayden Ahmed, with the wet tyres at the start of the race, cruises home for 2nd. James Lazarus Smith comes home in 3rd position. Gregory Speakman started on the wets, takes home a great result of 4th. James Paisley Knight has got Pete Paver just behind. Pete Paver has the speed and will take the position through the last corner. Pete Paver takes home 5th. James Paisley Knight in 6th. Riley Pogue will come around the end of the lap here to take home 7th position. Adam Neal will take home 8th. Eduardo Zamora a lap down in 9th. Ollie Ricks a lap down in 10th. James Potter a lap down in 11th. No, this isn't the end of the race. We did push for 1 more. It's a white flag. How did he do that? I've done it again. I did this at Sebring in the Renaults last year. But at least I caught on to it. No fights out there, just saying. The gaps are too big now. The only thing that might change is Pacey Knight losing to Pogue, but I doubt it. Pogue pitted off of those dries about a lap or two ago. But I don't know how Brown got that extra lap in. The timer ticked to a close before we reached the line. That's the checkered, though. Thomas Brown will take the win 5 seconds clear of Hayden Ahmed, who himself 5 seconds clear of James Lazick-Smith. The result, as I stated on the previous lap there. Pacey Knight, though, I mean, it takes guts to stay out in these conditions on the dry tyres. He spun and stayed out. He spun a second time and stayed out. And ultimately, I think without it, it's very possible as he goes around in the same location, and he's black flagged. Paisley Knight will get a penalty on the last lap of asking here, as that's going to be a lap driver going past there of Lucas Chatterton. But Paisley Knight will be penalised out of this one, so we'll have to see how that affects the final race results as he goes deep into the final corner once more on those dry tyres. And he will come down pit lane, but of course you can't serve a penalty on the final lap of asking no matter how hard you try. So Riley Pogue will take 6th position in this one, and Paisley Knight will pull over. He will be DQ'd from this race. Well, not DQ'd, but he will get a post-race penalty from this one. Adam Neal is the last driver to come around here, and then we will be able to have a look at your race results and your championship results here. The touring cars are going to be around in just a couple of minutes' time, so we will need to talk this one through nice and quickly. The race results on your left-hand side there. Paisley Knight dropping to 8th. Right then, let's have a look at the full championship standings out of this one, and then we'll be jumping across to the touring cars. So we've got Thomas Brown leading the way by 23 points at the top with 4 out of 4 victories. James Lazick-Smith holds on to 2nd, ahead of Riley Pogue. Hayden Ahmed sits in 4th position, ahead of James Paisley Knight and Pete Paver. Matt Neal in 7th. It's Adam Baker in 8th, that of Gregory Speakman. And James Potter moves into the top 10 with 9 points on the board. We then have Eduardo Zamora in 11th position ahead of Lucas Chatterton. Adam Neal in 13th ahead of Ollie Ricks. And then yet to put in some laps. He was in practice last week, which is why he's on our standings board. But Thomas Batchelor at the back there. Right then, here from the first round, from the first event of the evening, it is done. We're going to step away very quickly as we head across to the touring cars for the next races. So don't go anywhere. We'll be live for qualifying in the British Touring Car Series in just a moment's time.